Hello everyone, it is Christine here and I am back to do work on the February prompt for the Colour Inspirations project that is being hosted by the fabulous Annie Claxton over at Arty Farty Annie, and I'll include a link to her YouTube channel in the description below, so please check it out. It's just such a fabulous project. Whether you like to work in paper or mixed media or fabric, it's fully adaptable to whatever medium or mediums you like. And so our prompt for this month is to take a object or a piece of art or a piece of writing, whether it be a poetry, prose, song lyric, and to take that as inspiration and to create a mood board. And so the mood board might pick up on colours from it if it was a piece of art. It might pick up on imagery from it if it was a piece of writing. It might pick up on shapes and textures. It might just, take inspiration from and seek to bring that into the mood board. Now, because I'm in a bit of a mode at the moment where I'm really trying to create useful things in my craft room, and things that, I can use in my craft room, I've decided that I want to create the mood board, but create it on a piece of felt, which can then be turned into a container for my craft room. And so I'm planning to use this felt as the base and then be attaching fabrics over the top, doing lots of slow stitching over the top, and then ultimately turning it into a slow stitched container. I'm thinking because of one of the elements I want to add to it, which will be quite heavy, that I'll probably end up bolstering it with some card or some extra sort of stability inside between the two layers. That's why I've done this folded piece of felt, but we can talk about that a bit later when we get to construction. Today is going to be about the mood board, but I wanted to kind of show you where I was planning to head, and I'm thinking I'll make it as a sort of a longer container, because I've got a ledge that sits in front of my craft table, and it's a place where I could keep this sitting up on the ledge, and then I could just put my scraps, or even if I've got fabrics that I've taken off their cards that need to be folded back on, I could pop them into here. So I think it could be quite useful indeed. So I'm planning to have fabric on the inside and also on the outside, and then ultimately when it gets constructed together, the two bits will be stitched together and stitched together at the sides, and then a base will be put in, and it's the base that will determine the shape that it is, because this could equally be a round container or a square. You could make it a square. Again, you just need to think about how you get it to stay in the shape that you want. But the base, if I do it this way, will kind of define the shape that it takes. But don't worry, we can come back to that. But essentially, I'm just starting with a large rectangle, which I've then folded in half to get my walls of my object. And the benefit of this is that when I'm collaging fabrics on and stitching, the back of the stitching won't be going through to the other side, because it's actually two bits of felt. But you'll get to see that later as well. So in terms of my inspiration, I've decided to take this beautiful poem from the lovely writer Mary Walker. Mary Walker is an incredible New Zealand writer. She just has the most beautiful poetry. I'm going to include a link in the description to her website and to her Instagram, both places where she shares her poetry. She also has a newsletter you can sign up to and receive more of her beautiful writing. She's published books. They're just such gorgeous, beautiful use of words, and just really evocative. And this particular piece of writing, when I first read it, it just resonated so much, and it just stayed in my mind. And as soon as I heard the prompt of taking inspiration from an object or a piece of writing, I thought, nope, this is the one. So I went and found it on her Instagram. I asked her if it would be okay for me to create a piece of art inspired by it, and she graciously said yes. And in fact, I discovered Mary originally through Fleur Woods, who's an amazing New Zealand embroidery artist who I'm going to be doing a workshop with in just a merest number of weeks, actually, which I'm so excited about. So I just love how all the little threads and ideas and the creative people are all connected, and we kind of discover each other through other people. So yeah, it's a beautiful piece of poetry. It's headed Wild Fruit. I probably won't do it justice, but I'll read it out because I know some of you can't actually, might not be able to see it on the screen. Beyond my garden fence, weeds are simply plants. I might rip blackberry from my borders, but I covet its fruit in the wild. You may not fit where you are, too big for small spaces, too loose for tight boundaries, too loud, too colourful, too new. Over the fence, the world is hungry for you. You belong out there. Arch your canes over the gate. Beg the birds to lift you. However you do it, go free. So I just love that imagery of the context and how different contexts can mean different things, in this case for plants, but also for the way we kind of judge ourselves and judge others. I love the sense of that sometimes you might not fit exactly where you are at that point in time, and it's just those judgments that are made, the judgments you make about yourself, the judgments you make about others, and then that sense of the world out there being hungry, and that sense of the blackberry with the blackberry canes, lifting the canes over the gate, stretching out, the birds which eat the blackberries and then carry them out into the world, and just that sense of going free. So I think there's so much incredible imagery in this particular piece, and what I'm wanting to do is to essentially take each of the sections of the poem. I think are they called stanzas? I should always look up the terminology of things before I start talking. But yeah, so each of the sections, and have a section on my felt for that particular component. So I want to have a piece up front around the garden, and I'm thinking it's going to have a piece where there's sort of a more organic, sort of wild garden. I'm thinking I'll have some fabrics that have lots of sort of florals on them, and also a section with some blackberry sort of inspired, more wild sense, as well as the more sort of structured garden where it talks about ripping blackberry from my borders. So a bit of a balance of the wild and the structured. I want to have a section where I play around with this too big for small spaces. So thinking about how I can get a sense of largeness and constrained as well. Too loose for tight boundaries, thinking about sort of unraveling and threads. Too loud, obviously brightness. Too colourful, lots of colours. Too new, just things that might sort of stand out a bit in terms of fabrics and stitching. And then in the final, just have that sense of a big world out there, an exciting world, an exciting place, a sense of sort of freedom and birds, etc. So what I've been doing is going through my fabric collection and pulling out some fabrics generally in a single or a couple of colours. So I've gone with blue as my dominant colour, and then I've got some creams and some whites as the sort of balance, and then a few little flashes of other colours. So what I will do, I'll now sit down. I'll sit that there. What I will do is unclip it so that I've got a flat surface. And the first thing I'm going to want to do, I think, is line the inside of it. And I'm thinking I'll just use I've got a whole lot of samples from the Reverse Art track of beautiful, mostly Italian cottons and linens. And I thought I'll line the inside and also just overlapping up over the edge with these, and then ultimately do some kantha stitching, which we'll probably do in a separate episode. So I might get started on this. Let me see if I'll just bring you down so I can then keep an eye on what you can see on the camera and what I can see. I'm going to sit down. So I'll just start, and in fact here is my little pin cushion bracelet that I made as part of Roxy's Journal of Stitchery, which is going straight into use. Normally I'd just keep my sort of working needles in it, but this time I am going to be pinning this down, even though I hate pins. Probably should have ironed some of my fabrics, but alas I have not. So, and I'm going to keep my spare threads in my Ort collection over here. Then I can make lots of lovely Ort beads. And so yeah, you can just start lying it down. I'll probably actually overlap it over the edges, because this edge will eventually be joined and the bottom edge will be eventually joined into the base. So I think I'll probably yeah, put them under with a bit of extra fabric. I've got plenty of fabric to go around, and I'll also get out my little jar of clips, because that way I don't need pins. I can actually use some clipping when they're on the edges. So we'll start with the sort of interior, which won't be as exciting, but then yeah, rest assured we will get to the exterior as well. Or I can just show you a bit of this, that we don't even have to lay it all down, but at least yeah, get a start on it. It shouldn't take that long. You're really just looking at getting enough sort of contrast in yeah, colour and texture. Probably doesn't even matter if we've got bits that are a bit scraggly, but I like to have quite a bit of a frayed edge on things. I just love that, yeah, that frayed edge look in the piece. Sometimes at the edges I want them to actually sort of yeah, go under, as I mentioned. I'll probably want to have an extra piece, because I just want to make sure that the inner bit goes over the edge, because that way I'll kind of not be trying with my front pieces to cover over. You could do it either direction, but yeah, I think I'll do it this way. And again, I'll leave a bit of an overlap where that can then be tucked under as well. And I'll probably put it, because those are barely joining up, I'll put another piece across there also, but I'll just start the process. So I hope you're having a great day or a great evening. Yeah, I made a separate video on this if you're looking at it and thinking, oh, I'd like one of those. It's got a lid as its base, so it's very lucky, because otherwise I'm sure I would have stabbed my arm already. But it yeah, provides protection for the wrist from the pins if you get a bit overzealous in pushing them in. So I've got another piece of that, which I probably don't need. I've got a lovely piece of denim here. And it's always good to kind of, if you've got a large area to cover like this, it's good to start with some larger pieces, because if you started with really small, then you might struggle to sort of, yeah, fill in the area. You can always go back with smaller pieces after and add more patches. It's really up to you what effect you want to create. Maybe I'll put that one. And you can unpin and pin as much as you want. You're not committed at this stage, it's just playing around. And it really is just a base. I probably will even bring some decorative pieces into the interior, but I just thought it was a perfect opportunity to start using some of my reverse art truck finds. I think that's more a grey. I got it out the other night thinking it was a blue, but I'm going to put that into the grey category. One like this. Maybe we don't. Do we need all of it? Maybe I'll just put a smaller piece of that. Oops, didn't cut that very straight, did I? Again, I'll put that so that I can tuck it under also. Got this, which has got a seam on it. I think it's from a very old tea towel or something. Is that no, that's probably not contrasting enough. So let's bring a bit more contrast. The ones from the reverse art truck sometimes have little bits out, and they also tend to have corners that fold over a bit, because they've usually been stuck to a sample card. So edgy bit off. I don't worry that some of the edges are cut with like the pinking shears and then some are torn. All adds to the charm as far as I'm concerned. So this is another one that's sort of, yeah, folded over at that edge, but that's okay. When we start to stitch it down, as I say, I could have ironed it, but I haven't, so we'll just hide that corner under there and it won't even matter. I don't think I mind having the stripes and the checks next to each other. So I'll take a pin out of here, put it over here because I think I'll need to slip the other fabrics underneath as we go. That up there. It does start to come together really, really well. These sorts of, it's good if you can kind of get your pile of fabrics. Originally I was just going to do a video showing you me going through my fabrics, but I thought that could be a bit dull, so I should just bring these over though so you can actually see what I'm looking through. And maybe I'll move this down a smidge too. And that one actually needs to go over there. Okay. Well, you probably can't see those. Maybe I am too close, I don't know. Maybe up there. Up there for now. That's probably a bit similar, so I'll put that further down. This one, I don't know if I don't think I want to bring that green in, so I'm going to put that one away. That one's another stripy one. Some larger stripes. I don't mind a bit of a clash of the stripes, and I think it's kind of nice to have a bit of clashing given the poem talks about yeah, sort of too loud, too new. It's kind of good to be a bit clashy, but maybe I'll use some spotty dots. That could be cool. I have the choice to use my little quick clips, I definitely use them over pins. They're much nicer to stitch with, but what I'll do once this is done is just get some holding stitches in place so I can get the pins out. It's always my mission, get rid of the pins as soon as I possibly can. Some other little shapes, still stripes. What else have I got on the sort of checked front? That would be good, a bigger check. Sorry, and you probably can't see again. So again, just making sure I'm overlapping enough between the pieces. Take this one out. Lovely fine cotton linen. I don't know, I feel like I need something a bit brighter or a bit more contrasty there. Got this darker one. That could be good. I also, when I'm doing it, I kind of don't want to put things in at exactly so that they're kind of going across like that. I like to have them a bit more staggered. So this one, for example, could go up there, or it could go here, maybe there. One's a sort of a crooked piece, but I'm not too fussed about it really. So again, you probably can't quite see the bottom. Let me drag it up for you. Lots of different things to use. Oh, that one's nice too. That's a beautiful linen. I like that one. Okay, I'll have to take one of the pins. Again, I will pin it over where it's not needing to have any fabric put underneath it. And I'll just need to make a bit more room so you can keep seeing as I get to the end. This piece is actually probably too big. I probably only need half of that. And I think I'll tuck this under because I really do like this, love this piece of linen. Do you kind of get favourites when you're working with fabric and you're like, oh, I really like that one. Got to give that dominance in the piece. It's a great way to, yeah, be using these pieces. I'm really lucky to have the reverse art truck. In fact, it should be open for the year again, but I'm not sure whether I should let myself go down there and get more goodies until I use more up. I wouldn't mind having a bit of denim. I'm not sure how hard it's going to be to stitch through. Maybe I will actually just take the bit out. Just put that bit there. Just folded that under again. You probably can't see, so apologies. What else? This is a beautiful fine. Again, I might just take that curly corner off. I don't need the whole piece. Oops. Sometimes the pieces just do not want to. That one doesn't want to tear for some reason. Doesn't really matter. I can cut it. Yep, I think that will go there. Now, what next? What haven't I had for a while in the design? It's quite nice. Again, I just want to have those different sort of heights for things if I'm doing them. Maybe over here for that one. I'm going to have to get that to sit a bit straighter. Okay, what else from my pile here? Ooh, look at this. Beautiful linen, I think it is. So I think that can go for this bottom corner. Now, what do we want to put under this one over here? Another bit of lighter linen, although I think I'd like different textures again. This one's nice. It's got the nice creams which are going to be playing on the other side, so I think that's doable. So that's an example where it's best to get your bigger pieces on first. To go up that way. That looks better. Unless I should have the lines. I'm just looking. It probably doesn't matter which way the lines are running in this case. And we'll tuck it under at this end as well. And then I was going to have this in here, wasn't I? That was going to go up here, I think. And so that's all just with rectangles. You can bring in other shapes. I did have a triangle before. I don't know where it's gone. Somewhere here I did have a triangle, and so you could definitely bring other shapes over, but I quite like the rectangles. I think that's going to be a good initial base, and then as I say, you can then sort of come back and add more elements over the top, although I do quite like that. That's off the side of a hanky, I think it was. But maybe, do I need the whole stretch? I haven't had anything that kind of runs all the way up, so where might I like to put that to break something up? Do I have it run across this way? Or do I take a section? I think maybe I don't need the whole piece, so I'm going to, without cutting the rest of my piece. Always good to lift the scissors up a bit. So where would I like that? I'm feeling maybe on this darker piece over here, which you probably again can't quite see. Maybe across there for now. As I say, I can always change the mind until it's all stitched down. Even then, you can always unpick something. But yeah, that will be the interior. So that will be when we've done all our stitching, and I'm picking up bits of fabric in the process, I'm making a mess of my beautiful fabric piles, but that will be the inside of the pouch. So it's kind of good to take a look at it, see, and I think that will be, yeah, lovely. And it will all become, through the process of doing kantha stitching up and down and across and whatever other decorative stitching we want to do, that will all become a cohesive whole. So now let's move over to the front. So what I want to do with the front is, as I mentioned, I want to think about it in terms of the three stanzas, the three parts of the poem. So what I want to do is divide my front into three, which is going to be something like that, approximately there. So let me just see if I can find my, oops, knock over I had my friction markers, there they are, over there. So I'm just going to draw with my friction marker, which probably won't, this one I think is almost run out of kapoof. Let's see if my blue one's over here as well. Is it? No. I'm sure everyone's like, no, probably there's some of you that aren't like this. I just tend to get a desk that when I get into a bit of a creative vibe, the desk just loses all sense and feeling, but that's okay. I think we can kind of in our mind have it divided into three anyway. So what I will do is start with the first third, which I think is going to be about up to there. Okay, about to there, maybe about to there. Okay, cool. So we'll remember, I'll just put in one about here. So it's the blue and the blue. That's our first section. And this section is all about beyond my garden fence, weeds are simply plants. I might rip blackberry from my borders, but I covet its fruit in the wild. So what I did was picked out, and I'll get rid of these ones because we don't need them for now until we want to add any further layers to the inside. I did actually want to get a bit of this ticking from Alex's mum on, so I'm going to have to remember to get that added to the inside. So I'll put that aside. We can, as I say, we can come back. It's just starting off the process. And so I've looked out some fabrics to use for this first section. So some of the more structured little fabrics, that's a piece of embroidery, so I might leave that for a moment. This one was from a furnishing fabric sample book, and it kind of reminded me of a paved garden, or even the looking down on the garden. So I was wondering if sort of that might end up kind of sitting across the bottom of a page. I've also got this one again that reminded me of a paved garden, so that's also in the mix. And then I thought, yeah, I'd have down the bottom, I'd have the more manicured garden elements where it's talking about the garden and ripping blackberry from the borders, and then up the top of this section to have the more wild garden. So that's the thinking. So I've got lots of little fabrics, which I thought I'd use in the wild garden bit up the top. And again, maybe we just start sort of laying them down and layering them up. And then maybe I'll put the lower section ones in second. Again, I want to overlap them to have a good overlap, but up here, because I've already put these fabrics in place to be the overlap, with these ones I can just have the raw edge of the fabric. Some of them I'll probably neaten up the raw edges in that I'll make them actually even more frayy than they are, or in fact this one might be better to use it this way up, I think. So it's got a bit more of a frayy edge up the top. Don't think it has to go this. Some fabrics have to go a particular direction, but I think that one's okay, that direction. But I'll leave an overlap at this end because that way I can tuck that end under, but the top I will leave with the raw edge to the top because I've overlapped the others. This one will be good as well, but I want to separate it a bit because they're in a similar sort of colour scheme. And some of these I might end up cutting down smaller, but I just thought we'd start the process and see where it takes us. I almost feel like this is maybe one of the ones for the more manicured garden bit. I was thinking the really sort of small ones, and then I'm thinking I might do some wildflowers sort of stitching over the top. So I probably don't need the whole piece. Again, save any of the bits that you get from your tearing of fabrics and you can put them into your Ort jar to make Ort beads. So eventually I'll have to like move these clips when I'm sewing because I'll sew each piece separately, but just for getting the pieces down, just starting the process, it will be fine. But that little one, which is very sweet. I used that in my little cherry blossom brooch that I made for the Botanical Beauties project just a night or so ago. Lost track of the week actually. I had a tiring day today, went into work, but it was lovely to catch up with folks. The drive-in was a little bit slow because there was 3 lanes closed on the freeway coming down, so there was only 1 lane getting through. But I was listening to like local ABC radio here, and yeah, they have a great presenter on in the morning, and he had done the funniest parody of a particular sort of local government issue that had been going on here. I'm not sure if it would make sense to folks overseas, but I'll include a link to it. It was basically a council that had gone in with Warner Brothers to set up a Harry Potter sort of light and sounds show, but in a proposal to do it in a wildlife reserve. So he did a parody where he created a song of that the rap in the village of what's the song, in the Valley of Death. I can't remember which rapper it is, but he did it with a sort of a Voldemort voice from Harry Potter. It was made me laugh out loud while I was driving down the road. It was good. So I think, where did I say? Yeah, my section ends here, but that's okay. As I say, I've probably got slightly too big pieces here, but we can be trimming them down. But as I say, I'll probably end up covering up, so I can have some larger pieces and then start putting some smaller ones on. There really is no right or wrong with any of this. It's just what pleases your eye. I might put a few others. This could kind of remind me of the ground a bit. Actually, maybe I'll put the ones that are more regular. This one's from a curtain. Again, I probably need to bring this up a little bit. That was a curtain I had as a kid. I don't think this is... Oh no, this fabric did actually come because I found a bag of the fabrics that were probably from when they were made. Because it's got that sort of more plasticky backing on it. This one again reminded me of paving, so I thought I might have that down the bottom. Again, probably don't need all of it. But we will tuck those under there. This one I'm actually going to need to move down so that it can tuck over the edge, so maybe that does actually just, maybe I'll even put that up there. I'll put that down here. In fact, yeah, I'm going to, I've got some fabrics as well that have like blackberries and things in them, so I will need to leave space for those ones as well. So maybe I should grab that little pile. I've got little piles here. I'm just trying to make sure I get the right pile and not lose the other things that I was thinking of. Okay, that's for the final bit of it. Where was my little blackberry pile? Over here. I spot it. Over here under those. So I think, yeah, I'm probably going to need to actually reduce some of these, unless got those ones. Not all of them need to be used here, but I've got some particular fabrics that I thought would be fabulous. This is blackberry, so I just think this one does have to go into the mix. Again, I can probably cut it down a bit, or I can actually just cover that up. That can overlap the edge a bit. So I think I'm going to need to, I probably should have put that on in the first half anyway. So let's just have our blackberries. Which way? They're sort of hanging down that way, aren't they? So the bit of the poem where it talks about pulling them out from the borders but coveting them in the wild. Not sure which way up it's meant to be. No, I think them blackberries would hang down like that. And I'm thinking these I'll do some stitching into with some wools and some beads and things. Similar to what I did in the dictionary of stitches. Just have to adjust it to where it's sort of meant to go up to, but some, I think, yeah, about there is fine. And again, I might fray that edge a bit more, just to have a bit more fray edge to play with. Don't mind that actually, that melding into that. And then this one also reminds me of sort of blackberries as well, even though it doesn't actually have blackberries on it, but even these flowers sort of are a bit blackberry reminiscent. I probably don't need all of it though, although I could have that actually, a section of that coming up here, I think. This is one of my favourite fabrics that I've actually bought new. It's a Sister Moda Three Sisters fabric, I think it is. Something Bay, I think was the name. Probably needs to move a smidge over, which means probably need to not waste these ones underneath. As long as I can see my blackberries. It's a juggle. You think you're going to need a lot of fabric, and then you start doing it and you're like, oh, maybe I don't need quite so much there. But I think I can still have a play around. I do like this fabric as well. It's cut on a funny angle, so maybe I can just take a section of it. I don't know if it might even be a Liberty, I'm not sure. I sometimes get pieces from the reverse art track that, yeah, they kind of feel like a Liberty and look like a Liberty design, but don't know if they are. I'm sure there's lots of people that kind of, yeah, have a similar design vibe to the Liberty, but the Liberty you can usually feel because it's such a fine one. This is probably a little bit coarser. Maybe I would have something going vertically across. So I kind of want this to be the wild bit. Maybe I need a smaller section of this. Thing with slow stitching, you don't need big pieces of what you have. It's, yeah, often you're kind of cutting it down. Maybe it'll be nice to leave. Sometimes you want to leave a bit of space around for when you're stitching. I was originally going to cover it up, but I was thinking, no, maybe I want a bit of space. And I was planning down here, wasn't I, to have something that gives that sense of the garden being a sort of a sculptural, or like the paving or something. Where were those pieces? I do like this fabric. It's a bit more wild as well. It's got that sense of the wild blackberry. I might even have a bar of this because I think it could go well with the next section, which is about being too big for small places, too loose for tight boundaries, too loud, too colourful, too new. So maybe a strip of that. Problem is I want to put all my fabrics in. It's a challenge. Or maybe that one can sit on the top. I'm not sure. I almost feel like that fabric maybe should go the other way up. It's hard to tell with something. Yeah, no, I think that will look better that way up. In fact, because these should be coming over to the top. I haven't made things fall off. I think I've sort of unlatched some things from the other side, but that's okay. We'll get it all worked out in the end. I think I need to pin this piece back on. This is just the thinking. It's just the mood boarding, but mood boarding for a potentially useful purpose. So here was my structural piece that I was thinking I could kind of have this as the sense of the structural garden. And what else did I have? I had this piece of embroidery, but then I had this piece of paving like fabric. If you can even, yep, you can see that. Use that one. Not sure what else I had. Those were fabrics from this. Thought I had another piece that I felt was or was it this embroidery piece, which does remind me of paving as well. Do quite like that. Am I willing to chop further? I mean, it's been chopped anyway. It's had things borrowed from it. Would I want to have that down here? I think I could do that. Or I have this. It does have more greys and the blues are slightly more bluey. But I kind of like it. It's got a little sense of vines as well. So I'm kind of looking at it thinking, yeah, maybe. I can always come back to the other if I think that this isn't kind of hanging at the end, but let's give it a go. I think we'll put it that way and we'll just tuck it under for now. Oops, is there a clip there? Yes, there's a clip there. Oops, dropped one on the floor, but that's fine. We will come back for that later. We won't go digging under our desk. while the video is filming. So yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe this would need to move over because I don't really want to block out that blackberry piece. In which case I might actually want to move this piece over the other way. Have that sit there perhaps. In fact, this, I'm just looking at one that I'd selected out for another section for the next section, but I'm thinking this one almost creates the impact of paving as well, but it is a bit wilder. But then we would almost have a section that looks like paving down here. I don't mind that actually, but then I would need a fabric underneath. So we did have this one. Have this one again, which could sit under that. That does look like a sort of a paved area in a garden. Even that looks like a paved area in a garden too. Or that one, in fact. Maybe I actually cut around this. Ooh, let's do that. Don't think this fabric frays too much. We shall find out. Again, it's a sample from the reverse art track, so no big loss when I can get a massive bag for $5 of fabric samples. You can't really go wrong. It's a great way to play with things that you probably otherwise, I mean, you wouldn't even have access to buy as fabrics, but ones that are sort of synthetic fibres like this one, you're not too worried to have a go with it. So yeah, I think that could be interesting as an overlay piece. I'm going to put it on for now. I'm not going to dilly-dally too much, otherwise I'll drive you a bit crazy, but that would be starting to shape up a first section that relates to the first section of the poem. So then we're going to move on to the section about you may not fit where you are, too big for small spaces, too loose for tight boundaries, too loud, too colourful. So again, I should pick up and not drop pins over the place. So let's put the pin into my little holder. These were all the fabrics I'd looked out for that section. That's for the end section. These were spares for that section. Where are my... These are my ones here for my 2 bold, 2 everything pieces. Those are for that piece. They were from the original. Everything gets mixed up. I can start it all as a beautiful, beautiful pile, and then it all goes a bit crazy. So if we're then talking about our next section, it's sort of going to run, I guess, across here, including part of this. So I've kind of got this area to use. And so the first one is too big for small spaces. And so what I wanted to play with here was like these prints are sort of, yeah, constrained within borders. Too big for small places. So I'd quite like to use that one. And then this one I thought might be fun to use because it's sort of like a newsprint, so that playing with that too new concept, and it's a synthetic fibre. It's sort of a, yeah, quite an abstract print. So I might not fully pin these down. I thought we'll just have maybe for the others, because we are starting to run out of, well, not run out of time. We'll just have a look at what we're thinking of in terms of the concept. This one could be fun as well for the too big for small spaces. So I was thinking I could put something large behind this. It would need to be something, or even put one of my bold things. This one's an amazing sort of, it's, yeah, got some stretch in it, but it's concertina pleated. I know you lose that. I think this has to probably go in as the too bold, and just, I think I might end up doing some really fun scrunchy sort of stuff with it. Got got some textural. This one I thought I'd use for the too loose for tight boundaries. And what I want to do with that is sort of fray the edges. So there's a lot of frayed edges, probably along the sides. And then put some sort of structuring element around it. This one could actually be good for the paving over here. So I'm going to actually move that back over there. The too big for small spaces. I thought I could use a really large print, bit of floral, and again sort of constrain it. Whether I could even cut out some sections where you could then see the floral through that. That might be kind of fun to do. Or even sort of overlay. Yeah, not sure. Somehow putting lots of sort of overlays, even using some of these laces, I could cut out parts so you get little sightings of the flower. And then for the sort of the too new, I thought some shimmery sort of fabrics. I've got that one, which is I guess the too loud or the too, and then too colourful. Also got some beautiful, it's got these little shimmery bits on it, and it's like a mesh. And again, I thought I could just play with that. So this section, after the sort of the garden section back here, this section of the container is going to be quite different. So each of the panels, they will flow into each other, but they will tell the part of the poem, as it were. So lots of different things really to play with here. Again, this can be used for the too loose for tight boundaries and do some unraveling. This will be good for the sort of the too loud, the too colourful. This one will be good for the too new. Again, it's sort of a bit vibrant. What else? Oh, this one would be good for the too colourful, I think, just to have that little shock of the bright green. We've got the green in like the blackberry plant over here, and then I've got this piece from a block printed napkin, fabric napkin, so that could even be good just to have a little section. So I might even kind of have each of those parts of the too big, the too loose, the too loud, the too colourful, too new somehow rotating around. Haven't worked that out, but you're kind of hopefully getting a bit of the vibe from that. There's some other vibrant pieces. That's a nice textural piece. This one's a bit of a sort of a shimmer. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. Texture. So yeah, these sorts of pieces will go in here. Bold patterns. So that will be that section. So just sit those out of the way for a moment. Oops, and these ones too. Yes, all those. And so in fact there's some other lovely ones as well in the mix there. Some more sort of psychedelic style, so I think they will fit in. Some swirly bits too. This I thought was kind of good because it's like a constraining, it's like a rope or something, so I thought even putting that around some of the ones where it's about too loose for tight boundaries. So that's the second section, and then the third section will be over the fence the world is hungry for you, you belong out there, arch your canes over the gate, beg the birds to lift you, however you do it, go free. And what I want to do here is to take the imagery of freedom and a world, sort of an exciting world. So I was thinking for here, some sky sort of prints and have those up the top. Again, this one reminds me of sky. I won't need pieces this big. I thought I might incorporate something that has a bird in a cage down in the lower section. Got some other optional fabrics here. Some bubbles I thought sort of floating up. I was thinking what can float up and give that connotation of freedom. That one will be a good sky piece and almost looks like little snowflakes. Wanted to have the imagery of feathers. So I've got this beautiful fabric from the Bleu de France range. I've got a couple of different ways in the feathers, and definitely want to have birds because part of the poem says beg the birds to lift you, so having the birds. Got a few again from the beautiful Bleu de France fabric. Got some little birds on this patchwork fabric. Again, the dots could be good as little bubbles or something floating up to the sky. Again, I've got probably way too much fabric. This could be little snowflakes in the sky. I think the idea of little dragonflies could be lovely to incorporate, or even just a couple, one dragonfly fussy cutter out. Again, that could have been nice sky. I do have owls because owls are wise, so maybe we will have an owl somewhere in here as well. Got another sweet little bird in a more sort of pinky toned, but I think we could have a little flash of that. I'll be cutting, I think fussy cutting out some of these feathers, beautiful feathers, and then stitching into those and stitching them on. Again, I thought they could kind of be floating up. I love this little bird, so I think maybe that could have some feather painting on it. I'll see how many little birds I can get into the mix. Sorry, my camera's just telling me it's running low, so we will have to wind up soon. And this one as well, which is from a gorgeous dress. I think this was from a dress I had in this Indian block print. This was just a piece I did dyeing ages ago with some watercolour, just pens. But it's created a lovely colourway, so that could even be in the background of sky. And this was an experiment I did recently where I actually just took a picture I'd printed of Monet's water lily painting, and it wasn't going to be used for anything. And I wet it down, I put some fabric on top, and it then took on the colour. But then an interesting thing happened because I put it to dry in my bathroom, but I obviously managed to splash some water onto it when it was dry. And where the water went, it created these beautiful little like bubble effects. And so I then, after I saw that, splashed some more water on and got more of the bubbles. And I just love it. It wouldn't be this, if this got water on it, it would continue to colour shift, so it's not something to wash. But yeah, it was just a fun way to reuse a piece of inkjet printed paper, wet it down, transfer it to the fabric. Obviously, if you're sensitive to printed chemicals, I mean, you don't use it for anything you're going to wear, but it was a fun little piece to play with, and I might even use just a little bit of it in this piece. These fabrics remind me of feathers as well. For the bit that it talks about the world, over the fence, the world is hungry for you, I thought I might kind of have this in the transitioning section, and this came off the Selvage Edge Explorer, so that might go on as a little word. That's that feather-like fabric, some more little birds. So yeah, and I've got water lilies as well, which I wouldn't mind putting one of these little water lily remnants in. I'm not sure. We shall see. We'll see how much we can fit. I should have made it. I thought I was making a big container to begin with, but maybe I should have even gone larger. So that is the concept. I will go away and I will get pinning down, and then we can come back together, and what I'll probably do is get some stitching down done so you can see what it's starting to look like, and then we can do some of the stitching down together. But if you want to follow along with this project, you could start by working out what size of container you want, getting a piece of felt or backing fabric that you can use. You can even join multiple bits of felt together. If you want to do it the way I am, where you'll stitch into each side of your fabric separately so that you don't get the stitches going through. Some people like, if you're just doing a kantha stitch, to have that go through all the layers. I want to just keep the flexibility to be able to insert something between my layers of felt to give my container some more structure at the end, because what I'm wanting to do, potentially, we're going to see if we want to do this once we've got it all stitched down, but I got these beautiful beaded pieces from Silk and Stitch as a lovely gift at the end of last year. They sent them to me to thank me for having purchased from them that year, and talked about their products. It wasn't a paid promotion or anything. I just happily talk about companies, particularly if they've got sustainable ethic, and the Silk and Stitch takes sort of offcuts and remnants from the bridal industry and provides them to other creators and crafters at really good prices, which diverts things from just being wasted or going to landfill. And so they sent me some absolutely amazing, beautiful big pieces. And I'm thinking I can then, if it's not going to be too much, lay this over, because it kind of gives me the sense of a fence. And the whole, I guess, poem is structured around within a garden and beyond a garden fence and lifting up. So I just thought it could be a lovely element. And this almost reminds me of a gate as well. So I thought that could be a lot of fun. I am going to have to see if it will be too heavy, because it is actually a very heavy beaded piece, but I just thought that would be a lovely way to honour and make use of one of the beaded pieces, to have it on display in my craft room and enjoying it. And I just thought what an incredible piece that would become with being fabric and bead. But don't worry if you don't have anything like that. You can also at the end, if you want to kind of add elements, you can use ribbons. I was also thinking, where did I have it? Originally, before I remembered I had the beaded piece, I was thinking I could make something like a little fence element using this ticking and have that run along the bottom. So lots of possibilities. Again, you can just do a fabric one, but I just thought this might be fun to add in. So that's a possibility, but that's still a ways off. Next episode, we will come back and do some stitching down of the fabrics, and hopefully by then I will have laid down the fabrics across here and done some further tweaking where I want to the fabrics. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I can't wait to see what you're creating if you're doing this project as well. Bye.